Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Karen Bowen. I'm the Democratic and Scrutiny Services Officer supporting the meeting today. For the benefit of those who are viewing at home, this meeting is being live streamed and will be recorded for future viewing. If there are any discussions, I would ask all members to speak during the meeting so they can raise their hand and the chair will call them in to speak. If there are any issues with connection, if they can please use the chat, and one of the Democratic Services officers will contact them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Karen. I'm, as far as I'm aware, the interpreter has not arrived, so I will be speaking in English for the moment, and we're moving to Welsh when the interpreter arrives. Welcome to this afternoon's extraordinary meeting of the Democratic Services Committee. Could I ask if we have any apologies for absence? Karen?
Yes, we do, Chair. We have Councillor Hamilton and Councillor Sandra Perks.
Okay, thank you very much, Karen. Are there any further apologies for absence? No? Okay. Thank you very much. In that case, can we move on to item 2, which is the minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 1st of July 2024.
Chair, before we start, can I just let you know that James has arrived now, the interpreter has arrived.
Okay, so
So you should be able to hear the translation if I turn to Welsh. Is that all okay? I need someone to let me know if it's working or not.
Thank you.
Okay.
So if we can move on to item 2, the minutes from the meeting on the 1st of July this year. Is everybody happy for us to accept these as an accurate record? If I could ask someone to move this. Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Someone to second. Thank you, Councillor Hanks. And then if we move on to number 3, to receive any declarations of interest and the nature of such interests. Any interests on this point? Okay, no declarations. So we'll move on to item 4, the Chief Executive report on the hybrid meeting platform update. I take it that Karen Bowen will present on this item. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, can I just say then with the report, I'll take it in 4 parts if that's okay. I'll start off with the background, which is detailed really in the executive summary, which commences that this committee received a report on the revised multi-location meetings policy back on the 17th of July last year, which provided a progress update on the legislative requirements under the Local Government and Elections Wales Act, and also considered the revised draft MLM policy, which was recommended to Cabinet. Following that meeting, this committee then referred the report to Cabinet, and Cabinet on the 7th of September 2023 proposed that the MLM policy be adopted as recommended by the committee, but that there be a trial period of 6 months for scrutiny committee meetings to be held on a hybrid basis. As if you remember, the MLM policy at that time was stating that it'd be remote-only basis, but this committee requested that they go hybrid and be broadcast live, to which the Cabinet agreed to undertake a 6-month trial, and then for us to come back with a report to Cabinet and this committee. Paragraph 1.7 of the report it states that the EasyCom solution, which is what this council uses for hybrid meetings, was installed and commissioned in September 2023, and a programme of snagging followed to ensure the system was ready to be thoroughly tested ahead of the soft launch which had been agreed. Once fully commissioned, as referred to in paragraph 1.8, at the end of August-September, a programme of system testing was carried out on the EasyCom hybrid system, and we had various number of attendees attending so that we could see how the system worked. The second part of the report details the actual implementation of the EasyConf platform, And this part of the report provides members with an overview of the work undertaken to implement the technology and the support that was provided for members in the use of the new platform and the changes that had to be identified in the council chamber to accommodate meetings within the chamber and in line with the MLM policy. So following the implementation of the EasyConf platform, we undertook, a number of testing, and a complete log of issues has been maintained and monitored on a weekly basis by the hybrid implementation project team, which consists of a number of officers from the council, including the monitoring officer and Nick Wheeler, the operational manager for ICT, as well as members of my team and other officers within the council as well. So those meetings continue to take place. And as referred to in paragraph 2.2, simultaneous Welsh language translation functionality has also been fully tested and works seamlessly. And as we can see today, that does work online as well, this meeting being remote, but also last night at the full council meeting, that was also put into motion because the full council meeting is on a hybrid basis. Hybrid voting has also been fully tested. And again, this works. And again, at full council last night, that could be seen that worked successfully. We did have, and we have had some issues during the programme of testing and over the period of time. But in the main now, those testing issues are being resolved as we go forward, and the system is working in order for us to recommend that we go with this EasyConf system for the future, for at least the first year anyway, because we do need to have a hybrid system in place. Having regard to the Local Government and Elections Wales Act, we have to have a system in place. And at the moment, this system provides everything, including Welsh translation. I know a lot of members like different platforms, but they don't all provide Welsh language translation service. If I can go further on then to training and support provided for members in paragraph 2.12, we continue to offer support from Democratic Services and from ICT when needed if there are any connection issues. And we also provide outside organisations and representatives who come to make representations to committees. They can come to scrutiny committees and make representations, public speaking and planning, etc. And we provide all that service from within Democratic Services and through the IDEV training on the system, which is an internal IDEV training system for members that they can access whenever they need to. Paragraph 2.16 also refers to the work that the DSSOs in my team, the Democratic Services officers, provide to members throughout the whole process and continue to do so for all council meetings that operate on the hybrid and remote system. In addition to the work with the actual system and the software system, there was some work that was also required to be undertaken to the council chamber. All that work has now been completed because as a result of the local government elections, the membership changed, but the capacity within the chamber also had to be looked at in relation to hybrid meetings. And when we took the report back in September, we also in November, we also asked the committee to consider an option, and they chose option F, which is now the option that's being used when we implement hybrid system within the council. Going back again to paragraph 2.25 and the hybrid implementation team, we continue to have weekly meetings to discuss any issues and to go forward with VPAV, who are the current providers, and they've been very supportive and reactive to our queries and any concerns that we've had. If I can go on to the third part of the report, the Council's multi-location meetings policy, that, as I said, was presented to the Democratic Services Committee on the 17th of July, and then following a recommendation to Cabinet, the 6-month trial basis was agreed by Cabinet, and we implemented that, and have continued to provide hybrid meetings for scrutiny committees until obviously a decision is made today, which either way it goes. However, to actually provide this service, there is a cost, and it's not only a cost financially, because the report at paragraph 3.2 refers to the cost of overtime payments that are made to members of my team in order to manage these meetings. And I've also got team members who may take time off in lieu as well. So there are resource and capacity issues in relation to operating this service. However, the report does go on to say as well that there is no budget for this for the team, but in order to comply with the hybrid requirements of the Act, this system has been purchased in order to do that. The report does advise that while it is not anticipated that IC support will be required for all council and committee meetings, it may be possible on occasions that technical support will be required, and then costs may be incurred as well in relation to the ICT team. However, just to cover and look at this in more detail, having regard to the trial basis, which was recommended by Cabinet, there is information at Appendix 2, which does provide information on how many members and how many people are in the chamber for hybrid meetings, for scrutiny committee meetings, which is information which shows that there's not a terrific number of member attendance in the chamber, and the resource intensity for my team is that whenever there is a meeting in the chamber, we have to come in, we have to set up all the microphones, set up the system in the chamber, and therefore the statistics attached to Appendix 2 I've attached because it shows that not everybody is attending in the chamber, and it's minimum figures that are attending. So the report is suggesting that we in the future, we undertake scrutiny committees on a remote-only basis based on these statistics, and that if there is ever a need, there may be going forward, for a county-wide matter that we know will the public may be very interested in and really want to, to come in and make public representation, then that, if it is a very hot topic, then the chair of the relevant committee can discuss with the chief executive about having the meeting on a hybrid basis. So that's the recommendation in the report that's been put for committee to consider, and then refer back to Cabinet for the final decision from Cabinet. The fourth part of the document of the report talks about a request that we've received from previous chairs and the current chair of the Shared Regulatory Service. It's a joint committee which is run by the three authorities, and they've requested that their annual meeting takes place on a hybrid basis rather than just remote. Again, it doesn't mean that everybody has to come in person. They can do it remotely if they wish, but the request was made for them to meet up, at least at the annual meeting, and that has been presented in the report as well. So the recommendations that are referred to in the report, that having considered all the issues that have been raised and addressed with VP and AV, and the system that is currently being used is considered fit for purpose, and following negotiations with VP and AV, we are recommending that Cabinet continues the contract with VP AV Limited on a 1+1+1 year basis, in order that future remote and hybrid council meetings can be held, and also on the EasyConf software platform. That the second recommendation, the delegated authority be granted to the Director of Corporate Resources and the Monitoring Officer, Head of Legal and Democratic, in consultation with the Leader of the Council and the Chief Executive, to continue and enter into the contract with VPAV on that 1+1+1 basis from the 21st of August 2024, as the current contract is due just around about those dates. And the third recommendation, that all scrutiny committee meetings be held on a remote basis only, unless a matter of county-wide interest has been determined by the chair of the scrutiny committee in conjunction with the chief executive, and that the council's current multi-location policy in the constitution be amended accordingly to reflect that. And that is based on the information supplied at Appendix 2. And then number 4, that the MLM policy be amended to read that Shared Regulatory Services Joint Committee annual meeting be held on a hybrid basis and or in person, subject to the chair of the committee's agreement. Open to questions, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr, Karen.
Thank you very much, Karen. I'll ask for factual questions first before we open this out to views of members of the committee. So in relation to I spoke about some of the challenges in relation to moving to a new system. I'm aware of some of the difficulties, including one planning committee, where the meeting, it was not possible to hold it, and as well, on another occasion, joining a standards committee, where we needed to move to another system, and as well last night, in the full council, I heard that a number of members unfortunately lost connection. Do we know the reasons behind these problems, whether that be in relation to the system or error or so forth?
Yes, Chair. Oh, is this coming through twice? The issues last night. Why is it coming through twice? Yeah. Sorry. The issues last night related to a number of members lost their internet connection at home, which wasn't directly related to the EasyCom system. It was due to losing a number of internet connections. And we've since had some emails from members today advising us of that. And if there are any issues that we can resolve, we will do that. But in the main, they were down to internet connections. So we didn't have any other. Sorry, I'm hearing myself again. Are you hearing me twice? You're not. It's just me. Okay. So with the planning, there were a number of issues with the planning. There were members who were travelling around the country and couldn't connect for various reasons. Some were in their cars and just couldn't connect. Nick Wheeler is on the call, and I'm sure Nick will join in and give some more detail to that. The standards committee issues were down to the fact the chair requested he wanted to see more people on screen, and if you've got the system, you can have at least 8 on the screen. So we tried them as 8 that day, but it didn't seem to work. So we are working with BPAV on that. The smaller meetings where members may want to come on and be on screen all the time. So we are working with them on that, but that was one of the reasons. There were also some permission rights which have been resolved. So as far as I'm concerned now, there may be a couple of issues going forward, but in the main, the system is working the way it should be. We need to have a hybrid system. This system provides that, but unfortunately, we can't do a lot if members lose their connection. And I understand from one of the councillors last night that in her area, a number of neighbours lost their connection for the internet.
Okay, diolch yn fawr, Karen. Now,
Okay, thank you, Karen. I'm going to follow that up with a second question before I invite others in about something which came up last night, was at the moment, in general, the Welsh is translated, and therefore external viewers hear English only. So whilst this does provide us with the right to use Welsh, it is ultimately then received in English only, as opposed to the option of having the original voices. Could this be changed in future?
Yeah, there's something that we're going to pursue. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, diolch yn fawr iawn. Gai ofyn, mae
Okay, I can see 3 hands up. Councillor Hanks had a hand up, but if I can start with Councillor Carroll.
Couldn't hear Karen, or I couldn't hear Karen. It was a double sound, and I just wanted to tell you that I couldn't hear it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Could other people hear Karen? Oeddech chi'n clywed?
Were you able to hear Karen speaking?
Neither did I either.
Which is fairly ironic for a discussion about the
Yeah.
system works
Yeah.
or not.
It was broken up and double.
Yeah, I could hear it back. It's come back to me now, so I can hear
yeah.
myself. I don't hear myself twice now. Did you hear any of my report, or was it the questions when Councillor Johnson was asking?
Just the last bit, Karen. I
Oh.
heard the report, but it was only when you realised that you could hear yourself twice that I couldn't hear that.
Okay. I don't. Councillor Johnson was asking about the number of issues that had arisen from the planning meeting and the standards committee meeting, and some last night. And what I was explaining about last night was there were a number of connection dropouts via internet, and members have come back and reassured us that it was to do with their internet. And one member in particular, the whole neighbourhood last night had dropped out. Whether it was the weather, I don't know, but the whole connection dropped out because of the weather in her neighbourhood. But then she managed to come back on later in the meeting. Other members I know, there was another member who was travelling and was in the Midlands, and they had initial problems, but then they came on no problem at all. And there were 2 other members who dropped out from internet connections. But again, I'm not entirely sure where they were in the area. But the standards committee, that really became an issue because the chairman had asked if we could have more members on screen at any one time. So there is a mosaic facility in this system that allows you to have at least up to 8 members on the screen. But unfortunately, that didn't work. And we are working with VPAV about that, because on most occasions, and I've spoken to the Cardiff officer, they don't use the mosaic. It just seemed to be an issue for us, but we don't use the mosaic in any other meetings either. But it was a facility that was there, and we tried it out, but it didn't work. And there was a couple of permission rights that haven't found since that caused a problem that day. Planning committee was a different kettle of fish. There were a number of issues that day, but again, it was members travelling around the country, loss of connection issues. There was a number of issues, and I know Nick is on the call, and I'm sure he can come in and explain a bit more about, what the planning committee that day experienced. But since then, we haven't had those types of issues. But I'm happy for Councillor Johnson to call in other members, and then maybe we can ask Nick to come back in on that one.
Okay, diolch.
Thank you very much, Karen, for reiterating those points. Hopefully everyone was able to hear. I can now see 3 hands up: Councillor Carroll, Councillor Thomas and Councillor Prothero. So I'll call people in that order. So if I can start with Councillor Carroll, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can everybody hear me, first of all? Fantastic. I must say I'm deeply concerned by these proposals, and I won't be supporting it. I don't like this idea of moving towards holding scrutiny committees on a remote-only basis. My views on remote attendance at meetings and remote working as the only option are well documented, so I won't go through them again. But I really think there's an issue here where we're sort of moving away from encouraging in-person attendance, which I firmly believe and think has been proven to demonstrate better scrutiny and accountability. And I'm deeply concerned that the council is looking to move away from that and move towards a wholly remote system for the majority of meetings. I don't think it's conducive to us doing our jobs in the best way, and I think it's a regressive step. I understand the point that Karen made about staff having to come into the civic offices to set the meeting up. But at the end of the day, that's a resource that does need to be incurred for us to have scrutiny in the appropriate manner. I think it's deeply regrettable that this is being considered, and I would strongly urge the Cabinet to drop this proposal.
Sorry, Chair, you're muted. Can't hear you.
Diolch yn fawr, Neil.
I just wanted to ask Councillor Carroll, he referred specifically to recommendation 3 in relation to virtual only scrutiny committees. Does he also agree or disagree with the others, or is it specifically only recommendation 3? I just wanted to check that with you.
I'm sorry, Chair, I didn't have the translation facility on, so could someone share that, please?
Sorry, the chair was asking if you were only disagreeing with recommendation 3, which is in relation to the scrutiny committees being on a remote-only basis, unless there was a county-wide issue, and therefore asking, are you in favour of the other 3 recommendations?
Well, fundamentally, are you opposing the one recommendation, George, or are you opposing all of them? Just looking for
yes, it was predominantly the one recommendation. I mean, there are issues with the platform more generally, but I think those can be ironed out. But the particular recommendation is of deep concern. Yes.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. Okay, Gael.
Okay, if I could ask Councillor Thomas to come in, and could I just check that everybody else is hearing the translation?
Yeah, Chair. Couple of factual questions. One is about meetings that start earlier than 5 p.m., such as planning and this meeting as well, are likely to overrun the 5 o'clock deadline. And whether there's any sort of consideration of that, an explanation of a bit more of what the 1+1+1 basis actually means. And thirdly, an observation. I mean, it's ironic that for Councillor Carroll to take that position that he's just stated, especially in light of the number of his group that attended in person last night, as opposed to your group and not and our group, where we had quite a good in-person attendance. Clearly, there is they're voting with their feet within his group by not attending, and I'm wondering why he's taking the stance that he's taking. But the cost implications, I think, are overriding in this. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, Cynghorydd Thomas.
Thank you. Could you respond to that, the factual questions, Can?
To Councillor Thomas's concerns regarding meetings that may overrun, the MLM policy states that there are a number of meetings which will be held hybridly, and planning is one of them. So if that meeting did overrun, so there's no suggested changes to the current MLM policy, which is in the Constitution, other than in relation to the suggestion that scrutiny committees are remote only unless there's a county-wide interest, and the other issue at number 4, recommendation 4, regarding the SRS. With regard to the contract, we are suggesting a 1+1+1 to give us the opportunity that if there are serious issues going down the line, which we don't believe there will be, it just gives the council that reassurance going forward. And sorry, I missed the third one, the third query, and I'm sorry. Councillor
Yeah,
Thomas.
the third one wasn't a question. It was an observation on Councillor
Oh,
Carroll's
Councillor Carroll,
comments.
yeah.
If I may though, I still don't quite get what 1 + 1 + 1 means.
To incumbent,
I may be being thick, but
my hin.
I think that this is an agreement or a 3-year agreement which would be renewed every year. Is that what happens? So there's a 1-year contract or agreement and that then rolls on, but there is room for us to cut the contract or agreement after 1 year and after the second year. Is that correct?
Sorry, can you hear
Vicky's
me?
on the call. I was going to ask him.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Sorry, apologies. I thought it might help if I just came in to clarify. That's precisely it. But we would essentially be entering into a contract for 1 year with the option of renewing for a further year at the end of that term, and again for a further year at the end of the second term. So it gives some flexibility around particularly negotiation and any additional provisions that we may wish to incorporate within the contract going forward.
So is it the...
I just wanted to be
Sorry.
sure that what I thought was the case was the case. Thank you.
Thank you. So the intention, therefore, is for this to continue for 3 years unless a problem were to arise. Is that... Don't have to come back to us as a committee. It'll go back to Cabinet if this is agreed. Is that right?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah, okay, diolch yn fawr. Cynghorydd Prothero.
Councillor Prothero.
Thank you, Chair. For clarity, 1 + 1 + 1 is exactly what you said. You have an option to renew after each year. It's a kind of like not because of bad performance. It's your option. You reserve the right to or not to. So that's just what it is. So in terms of the use of the system, I think it has got better since we started. It's more reliable. There are still glitches, and I know that we are looking at it and using it in different ways with Mosaic. So that is also something. And I understand why we may, after going through all of the teething issues that we've had, want to stay with the same system and not trial a new one. That I can understand that too. So I'm happy that we are recommending that we keep with this one. In terms of remote meetings for scrutiny, I'm happy we've still got that flexibility as chairs if we feel it's a county-wide issue or it's particularly contentious, and we will be able to if necessary, hold it in person or, revert to hybrid. I think that's really good. I'd be interested to know if having the system that we have, if that is assisting participation. For the wider Vale, and certainly from the ward that I'm covering, which is 25 miles from Barry, going into the Civic, certainly for the residents of the Western Vale, isn't something that they might consider doing. So having the option of hybrid meetings, being able to take part in that way is definitely a bonus for them. So I'm, perfectly happy that we keep that system. I still don't think that you can't actually take part and make relevant contributions online and as clearly as you can in the Civic. And for someone who's worked for quite a few years in this way, it's something that I'm perfectly used to doing. So I think in the whole, I'm happy with all of the recommendations. And I'm happy that we are going to review every year for the next couple of years the system. That's good. That's good too. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr, Cynghorydd Prothero.
Thank you. Councillor Hanks.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding last night's meeting, there seemed to be a few little hiccups. There were a lot of missed words when certain people were talking. I didn't get all the sentences. I don't know if anybody experienced that, but there was sort of little bits of blank going on at certain times. And there was delay with the voting. So was there a problem with the voting system last year? Can I ask those now and a few little questions after that? please?
There was no problem with the voting system. It was just a case of having to set it up on the night. There was no problems with it and how it displayed. With regard to people going in and out, was that on the remote system or was that mainly people being in the chamber? Can you recall?
I was on the remote, so I presume it was. Oh, I don't know if they were remote or in the chamber. To be honest,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know to say. So it might have had something to do with that. But it was certainly breaking up when certain people were talking.
Right. It may have been because if the people are not focused on the microphone in the chamber and they turn their head, you might not pick it all up. You should be able to, but I don't
Yeah.
know as well because I know that a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people actually. It was only a few members had internet connections. I don't know whether it was something going on last night, whether it was the weather. I don't know. That
No,
might
it could have been
but-
the weather that was affecting it last night. Then the voting seemed to take longer than normal because we were looking at the standard for quite a while that was. But you're unaware of anything there.
Yeah, no, there was
okay.
nothing really. It's just taking the time to make sure it is set up, and
Thank
I think also to make sure that the members who were on the call were actually able to vote. But sometimes if the connection had gone, then obviously that person might not be there, and some may not even want to vote. So it's a case of we could see that the majority was there anyway, but it may have been that the officer took a little bit more time to make sure that everybody joined, but there was no issues with it last night, no.
Okay. Can I just ask, are we meeting all the statutory guidance now for MLM meetings given by the Welsh Government?
We are, and in fact, we are over and above them because not all local authorities in Wales actually do live streaming like we do in the Vale. Some do, but not all. They may do their major committees like council or planning, but they don't do all of them. We provide Welsh translation service on request by any member of the public who wishes to speak. We also undertook a survey with members, and as you can see today, a member requested that we have Welsh language translation, and that is available. We are compliant with everything, and having the hybrid system makes us compliant. And we are, and again, we're compliant with the law because not every meeting of the council can be in person, and we must provide the option for remote attendance. So we are covered as a council in all aspects, and I'm sure Vicky would come in on that if she thinks any different. But as far as I'm concerned, we're adhering to the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 21. We're adhering to the statutory and non-statutory guidance provided. We've gone over and above as a council, and I am aware that Welsh Government and WLGA are looking into having discussions with local authorities as to the guidance that was provided on multi-location meetings, and maybe looking to review that, but we don't know in what shape. But I am assured by officers who attended a recent meeting, the remote meetings are here to stay. But again, I could be wrong if information comes out, but I don't think I am. And I'm sure if Vicky wanted to come in, she could come in and explain what I've said, that we are compliant with that guidance more so than some other authorities.
Lovely,
But
thank you very
I'm not
much.
saying they're wrong. That could be their monitoring officer's view. I don't want to say they're wrong. That could be their monitoring officer's view. But
Okay.
we live stream all meetings unless there's confidential information.
And can I just ask, are we supposed to be connected to VPN or not? Because I seem to work on either, whether it's on or whether it's off.
Okay, so you can use either is the simple answer to that. There's no restrictions either way.
Okay.
Other than if you're not on the VPN, you won't be able to access the members hub where the documents are.
Right.
But you can use either.
Thank you. And two more quick questions. I'm now echoing. Can we do a roll call on this system in the future?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Is that something that we'll be looking to do?
Like we did at council last night, you mean?
No, all the names are called out and whatever. Is there something like a voting system that we can press a button to declare that we are there and then verbally do a declaration?
Comply with the legislation, Councillor. You really need to come on screen and you need to be heard. So
Right, okay.
that needs to be done. So we could do a roll call for meetings, but we've never really done them for smaller meetings. It's mainly for council. But when you're speaking on in a meeting of the council, you need to be seen and heard.
Okay.
Occasionally, if things do go awry, when your camera for some reason goes off, what I've done in a meeting is I've said, it happened in licensing the other day, actually. The applicant, his camera on his laptop didn't work. And I asked all the parties in that meeting if they would be happy to continue because they could hear him, and they were quite happy to do that. And although it says you need to be seen and heard, I think if all parties are happy to continue, that's fair enough.
Okay, and Chair, sorry, just one last quick question is, have we got the background effect up and working at the moment?
There is a background effect up and working on the system. We are asking you to look to choose a low resilience, just in case you have any connection problems at home, because it does take a lot of the broadband width if you choose a very jazzy background. The background facility is there, and we will be working with VPAV and MVI, which is MVI is a software company, going forward to see if we can have more as we go forward. But that's another design stage. But no, that facility is there.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr, Cynghorydd Hanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hanks. Could I ask Councillor Goodjohn to contribute?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I just wanted to say that it's deeply disappointing that Councillor Carroll now believes that there is no cost great enough for democracy, and not last night during the voting. But despite that, I just wanted to ask Karen, with the new recommendations, could you clarify? I remember back in November, we were being asked to consider to stop live streaming scrutiny committee meetings. Is that the same with the recommendations today? Nope. Thank you very much. In that case, sorry.
There's no intention to stop live streaming. It's only coming in person into the chamber on a hybrid basis. There's no intention to stop live streaming, and the MLM policy will continue to state that all meetings are live streamed unless there's confidential information presented.
Yeah, and that's very good to hear, because that was my main concern 7 months ago. So that's really good to hear, because I think it's really important for accountability that people have full access to us and what we're saying in these meetings to hold us to account in the future, and have full access to us remotely so they can join in on meetings. It is sad the lack of participation that has occurred, and I think generally, even though I advocated for more hybrid meetings at that meeting in November, it's sad to say that people haven't taken up the offer. The hybrid attendance in most scrutiny committee meetings has been poor, to say the least. And generally, is it really worth the cost to continue on hybrid meetings that people aren't going to in person? So for me, as long as live streaming is remaining, that people will still have full access online to our meetings, I would say in just the same way that they could come into the Civic, that there is no loss of accountability or public participation by doing this. I have to say I'd support the recommendations.
Chair, if I could come in just to say that obviously I did mention about this meeting with Welsh Government and the WLGA. They could come up with some suggested changes, but again, those suggested changes would come before the Cabinet and probably this committee, as the MLM policy has been brought through this committee. And then those discussions can be held at that stage. I don't know what that information would come through, but I've not been advised by anyone that there's a suggestion to stop live streaming at this stage. And just to try and reassure Councillor Goodjohn, the members of the public still have the opportunity to request to speak at a meeting. They can register to speak. We have moved the agenda dispatch days so that we can give people more opportunity. There's the Welsh language facility. We obviously need to make sure that we've got a Welsh language translator. So the agendas are out there for longer than they were before. And the information is live, and then it goes archived after on the website. And we have that information that we could share with you at the future democratic meeting regarding how many hits. I do appreciate that engagement is a struggle, but we are trying within democratic services as well with the comms team. We do regular social media posts, which gives the dates of the meetings and also now what the work programme of the committees are about. So we do try to encourage, and I would also ask members as well if they wouldn't mind encouraging as well the public when they are out and about, you know, to explain the opportunities that are coming up, the agenda items that are coming up. And to speak. And I know Friday, for example, we got planning. There are a number of public speakers, as you would probably expect for planning, but there are a number, and we continue to do that.
Diolch yn fawr, Karen.
Thank you very much, Karen, and thank you to all of the statements that we've now received. I don't see any other hands up, so I'd like to make 2 points. Neil? Councillor Thomas?
I was going to move recommendations.
All right.
You were continuing.
Yeah, so swing gallu...
Yeah, if I could just finish before we move on to that. There were 2 points I wanted to make. More so really wearing a hat as leader of a party rather than chair. So that's why I've left them until the end here. One is that in full council meetings, just like in the House of Commons, there's not enough seating for everybody. There is now an interim agreement which was to have a percentage of seats for each party. I already referred to this, but unfortunately, a number of parties are not taking up the full availability of seats in the chamber for full council. But for me as a leader, I have to ask people not to come into the chamber to take part in the conversation. So I have to prevent people from coming into the meeting in person to be face to face because my group doesn't have sufficient seating, and then there is empty seating elsewhere. I think this is unfair because we're ultimately preventing people from taking full part in the way that they want to partake in the discussion. So I would like to emphasise that my group, the Plaid Cymru group, doesn't agree with the fact that we're unable to all come in to the chamber for full meetings. And as well as that, like Councillor Carroll, I'd like to disagree with recommendation 3 before us. Relating to moving scrutiny committee meetings online only. I speak as somebody who does come into the chamber for meetings. Perhaps it might be easier for me because of my location in the middle of Barry. I fully accept this, but I do think that face-to-face scrutiny is more beneficial in my experience as opposed to virtual work. I know that this is a reflection of the view of my group in relation to the higher costs for this flexibility, but that is something that would be argued is part of the cost of democracy. So I don't agree with recommendation 3. Only myself and Councillor Carroll have spoken against. So if Councillor Carroll, I don't know if you want to come in on that point.
Apologies, Chair. I'm still having an issue with the translation, so I was just going to ask if this was on a vote. Could Karen issue a translation, please?
Right, I'll do this I'll repeat this in English just because I'm not quite sure the problem that Councillor Carroll is having. I was making the point that myself and my group, the Plaid Cymru group, are also not in support of recommendation 3, that these meetings should be held on a virtual basis. We believe that there should be the option available on both sides, whether to attend remotely or to attend in person, and that should be allowed to continue. We recognise that there are costs, but there are costs involved in all aspects of democracy, and this is one of them, because we believe that that face-to-face scrutiny, or the option of face-to-face scrutiny, is important for our members. On that basis, I'm seeing that Councillor Carroll and myself have suggested that we will oppose this. I don't know whether Councillor Carroll wishes to take that to a vote, or simply for us to note that this is not a unanimous decision, there's not unanimous agreement on this recommendation from the Democratic Services Committee, and that be part of the information conveyed to Cabinet. I don't know if other members feel the same way, or if we want to have a sort of a straight out vote. Karen, dwi'n gallu troi at chi?
Karen, if I could turn to you.
I was only going to say, Chair, that I'm not sure what Councillor Carroll's issues are with the audio settings. You do need to change them on the remote system to to English on the system, and I can speak to Councillor Carroll again about that if he is having issues. With regard to the full council meeting, it's the full council meeting where there isn't enough seating for all members of the council. So therefore the political balance system has been used. But for all other committee meetings, there would be enough seating in the chamber. And it's not done on political balance. I just wanted the public to be aware of that, if whoever was viewing.
Okay, doing deall.
Okay, I understand entirely. But the point does stand that the 8 members of the Plaid Cymru group, in every meeting, I need to tell somebody, no, you can't come in. And then there are empty seats where other groups haven't fully used their seating. And we should consider a system where if there are empty seats, or there will be empty seats, other people can join, and we can have some flexibility around that. So that's just something to note. I take it from the conversation there is agreement on recommendations 1, 2 and 4. Nobody's spoken against those. So I'm happy to move those. And I think Councillor Thomas was happy to second them. Is that right, Neil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was happy to move the lot, but
yes, I understand. But yeah, just to begin with, 1, 2 and 4. There's nobody who's speaking against those. Is everybody happy with that? Okay, everybody happy. And then in relation to recommendation 3 specifically, just wanted to check that Councillor Carroll is hearing me properly here. I'm happy for us to...
That I disagree with recommendation 3. I believe Councillor Carroll is as well. I don't know whether Councillor Carroll wants to go to a vote on this, or to put forward an alternative recommendation, or simply that we note that actually we're not agreeing with this.
I'm happy to note, Chair.
Want to speak on this? Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to note, Chair.
Okay. Felly.
Therefore, if Neil can move recommendation 3. And if somebody else could second that. And then Councillor Prothero is seconding that, I take it?
So, di cyngor Prothero jyst i gallu dod ar y
Sorry, if you could just come on the screen just to confirm.
Right, just you're seconding this, Joanna, yes? Okay, great. Diolch yn fawr.
Great, thank you very much. And then Councillor Carroll and myself noting our disagreement with recommendation 3. So we've come to the end of that item. Item 5. Any urgent matters in part 1? No, and nothing in part 2. And therefore the meeting draws to a close.
Agenda items part 1, Chair, and no agenda items part 2.
Felly, diolch yn fawr i chi gyd.
Okay, so thank you very much for your attendance today. And thank you to the translator.
For the planning.
We'll see you in 5 minutes for a briefing on the corporate plan.
Oh, that's happening as well. Yes, I forgot about that.
And environment and regeneration. So,
I'm not
performance
either.
tomorrow and planning on Friday.